Anyway.
The Radio Wammo Breakfast.
Live from the New Scientist Labs, Janine Young, newscientist.com.
Indeed, Melbourne City is where Janine is, joining us once again this morning. Good morning to you, Janine.
Good morning to you.
And we've got some cracker stories to get through. New Scientist magazine coming out next week. A bunch of stuff. First of all, some research done on chat-up lines and various ways that men try to attract women, particularly in social situations. What are the results, Janine?
Well, it works the other way around too, because women try to attract men. It's not just a man-based thing here.
Sure. I just thought the research was on men at all, but I'm wrong, obviously.
There's a number of things that can work across both. For example, wearing red. Red is a colour that's often been associated with strength and social situation in animals. When females in some species are ready to mate when they're in heat, they let off a kind of red flush in various parts of their bodies. Males in various situations are usually the top ranking male if they have a whole bunch of red, again, a red flush somewhere. So if you wear red in a social situation where you are trying to attract the attention of someone of, indeed, could be the same sex. I was about to say the opposite, but it might actually work the same way if you're interested in someone of your own gender. That wasn't considered here, to be fair, but I think there's a good reason for experimentally testing these things. Wearing red is a really interesting way of signalling that you're interested, that you're vital, that you're, I'd hate to use the word available, but let's go with available. The woman in red theory has always been part of a number of cultures, and often she's been very, vivacious and flirty and available, and often a really naughty woman. So red is an interesting colour that you can actually signal that you are available, perhaps. Your facial expression is another really interesting one. We all know that people get their first impression from us by whether we're smiling, whether we're frowning, how we hold ourselves and the like. What's really interesting is that some experiments in women that had them wearing, their really dowdy clothing, or, their comfy trackies at home, or they've gotten themselves glammed up, even though you can't see the dresses or what they're wearing at all, their facial expressions are subtly different. And men looking at these pictures can pick it up. So it seems that what you really should do, if you do want to go out on the prowl and be noticed, is to actually dress up a bit, make yourself feel good about what it is that you're wearing. If that happens to be your trackies, then you might want to think about it. But going out in your best and feeling your best does change the way you hold yourself, and it changes the look on your face. Men who use flirty facial expressions are, again, more likely to be rated as attractive by other women looking at them. Scary thing that owns some of this research, that a man's attractiveness will go up if he's considered to be off the market. As a woman who has a man who is off the market, I find this quite disturbing. Yeah. So a bunch of researchers talked to some women and said, okay, well, he's a moderately attractive man, he's single, he's, and listed a whole bunch of his qualities. And around, 60% of them said, oh, yes, I'd be interested in him, I'd have a look. When they thought that he had a girlfriend, that rose to an astonishing 90%. They said that they would attempt to pursue him. Come on, ladies, that's not fair. If a man is taken, he's off the market. Leave him alone.
That is, but that's kind of what, this research is obviously now showing that, but people had kind of, thought that was actually the case, wasn't it?
Yes, and there could be good evolutionary reasons for this, because if a man has been taken, for want of a better word, if he's married or has a girlfriend, then he's kind of been road tested. That's awfully crude, but it means that, a woman has looked at him, sized him up, gone, actually, yes, he's good mate material. So therefore, someone's done the work for you, and you can go, oh yes, I'll have a bit of that, thank you. The other thing is that if you're able to lure a man away from his mate, then it means that you yourself are more attractive. You are the better option for him, if you like. So you can see that there's an evolutionary basis for it. But in today's
so basic.
Society,
it's so basic, isn't it?
The road testing theory does have some merit, because there are some men that are single for a reason.
Indeed. Now, what about this? Also involved in this research was whether or not men should take an interest in the woman's surroundings, their environment.
The chat up line thing that you were talking about initially. Yes, I think we've all been subjected to some pretty dreadful lines for someone who's attempting to get our attention. Often they're groan-worthy. But the way we respond to those chat up lines can give a clue about our personalities. Often that the chat up line is a really good way for a man to give a sense, or person, because some women try it too, but generally it's men, to give a sense of his personality. So it seems that the most successful lines usually begin with him noticing something about the woman's surroundings, as you said. So it could be taking an interest in a book that she's picked up in a bookshop, or talking about something that's going on around them. In a bar, it might be, a lot of people tonight, trying to signal his intelligence. And that's not really one of them. You can tell I don't do pick-up lines. So not me. But that's a way of being able to signal that you are intelligent and you're not, a bit off. However, the type of woman that you are can influence the way you respond to these sorts of lines. If you're sexually available and interested in short-term relationships, then you are more likely to respond to chat-up lines that are sexually suggestive in nature. And, if you don't respond to a crude line like that at all, then it's very likely you weren't going to hit it off in the first place, because how you respond to a line like that gives a really good indication of the sort of person you are. You would never have thought it, but there are some that really like those sorts of cheesy lines. Humour can often work. It's not universal, but it could be that, I noticed you noticing me and I'm giving you notice that that I noticed, kind of thing. Some people might like that, and it means you could find it funny and you have some sort of connection to begin what might turn into a relationship. These things are always tricky, and they're always going to be really singular and that kind of thing, because every person is different. And I guess that's part of the point when you're trying to find somebody. Indeed.
Well, on from something quite light, I suppose, to something a little bit darker. The US Army is looking at rapid-fire rubber bullets for crowd control, Janine.
Sublime to the ridiculous, this one. Yes, that's right. They're a bit concerned that their current non-lethal crowd control measures, as they call them, are only single round. They're currently launched from grenade launchers. Now, that surely should give concern, I would have thought, in the first place. What they want to do is develop a rapid-fire system, and they're in the process of doing it. It's called XM1044, who are interested. They haven't finalised the design yet, but it's going to be a rubber bullet. It'll be hollow, about the size and shape of a toilet roll, apparently. And they're designing it in such a way that the current range of around 50 metres, yes, it's 50 metres, will be doubled to around 100, and they think that they should be able to get it to fire at 6 rounds a second. Now, call me a little bit picky, but that still sounds like that's going to be an awful lot of rubber bullets in a very short period of time.
Yeah.
And people who are concerned about, how the people on the other end of these bullets might respond, quite rightly point out that if you get hit in the head by one of these things, if it ricochets off something it shouldn't, you're likely to get a whole bunch of damage. And if you are hit in the head with this, you could still die. It's going to be pretty damn fast when it's coming out of a grenade launcher to be able to travel 100 metres.
And the interesting thing about this, though, is that I can't remember the last time the US Army or US Police had called to use rubber bullets inside their own country. So that leaves the option to only use them outside of the US, places like Egypt, places like Israel, places like that. So I can't see these even being used on US citizens, but other citizens around the world, and yet the US is developing them.
Isn't that the history of US military development?
Yeah.
The grenade launchers that are used to fire these, that are likely to be used to fire these things, have been exported to around 30 countries around the world, and Egypt is one of them. So it seems that the countries that have a bit more turmoil in their civil society than the Americans do, then again, they have their own rights. Think back to the race riots in the 1980s. Occasionally they do need to use them, but I think 6 rounds a second is a bit excessive, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty full on.
Call me soft. I live in Australia, we don't have that kind of thing.
No, likewise. Well, thanks very much, Janine. Those stories you'll find in New Scientist magazine coming out next week, and we'll talk to you next week.
See you later.
Time now here on Kiwi is 24 minutes past 9. Got a track from Hobbits on Smack. This